Hello, BookTube. We're continuing my library tour. We're doing the west wall of the little book room here. And once again, I should warn you all, although you've been telling me in emails that you don't need a warning, that pretty much all of this, at least for the while, is going to be about books. It's collections of book reviews, collections of book essays, it's memoirs about a bookish life, it's memoirs about publishing and whatnot. So it's not author biographies. I love author biographies. I went through a long time in my life where I didn't. Now I do. Now I absolutely love them. And a bookcase right next to these for author biographies is a natural choice. I am going to be reworking this room considerably as I do this library tour in the new year. So maybe that's a good idea, is to detach the literary biographies. There's a whole shelf of them out in the other room. From the biography section and put them in here, since they are, aside from British royalty, they are the biographies that I look to the most. So, but anyway, let's do the crosswise books here. The first one is very thin. Oh, okay. It's this cute little volume, Detached Thoughts on Books and Reading by Charles Lamb, can be very good on books. I should have the Viking Portable Lamb and probably a couple of other volumes of him as well. I don't know. They must be in this room somewhere. They wouldn't be anywhere else. But, oh, okay. All right. This next one is a Penguin trade paperback of something that we have already seen. This is Nothing If Not Critical by the great Robert Hughes. But this is an Orange Spine Penguin trade paperback, whereas the other one that we saw was, I believe, a UK trade paperback. So I have two of this, and that, that's understandable. And on one level, that I would see it and in a couple of different editions and get it. But it's totally inexcusable in this little book room. This little book room, most of you have not stood inside this room. It's tiny. It's tiny. It's a storage closet. A little bit, one step up from a storage closet. I like to think of it as a ship's cabin. It's basically about the same size as a ship's cabin, maybe a little bit bigger. I could actually stand for this room to be a little smaller. But one way or another, space is at a premium, so I cannot have doubles in here. I just cannot have doubles in here. I also can't have any book in here that I don't aggressively love. That I can't have a book in here just because I like the idea of it being in here. So, so as with the other sections of my library, this is due for a rethink at all times. Okay, all right. We haven't seen this author before, but we have seen his capacity. We have seen his capacity. Once upon a time, every editor, or virtually every editor of the Atlantic Monthly, wrote a book, or more than one book. They were, by default of that position, literary stars in America. And this is Edward Weeks, in my opinion, the greatest of them all, the greatest Atlantic Monthly editor of them all. This is In Friendly Candor, one of his autobiographical volumes. They are wonderful. They are such bookish books that I love them, even though they're not. It's coming. I can feel it. They're great reading, even though in this bookcase, the books that I revisit the least often, I still revisit them often, but the ones that I come to the least often are the literary memoirs. I really come to this bookcase for assembled occasional prose, where I let's say, I don't even know, where let's say in 2020 there was a big new biography of Samuel Johnson. There is rumored to be one. I don't think it'll be ready in 2020, but let's say there is a big new biography of Samuel Johnson, and let's say that somebody commissions me to review it. Not entirely an impossible thing, and even if somebody doesn't, that's one of the benefits of having your own literary review, is that I can just review it myself for open letters. If that happens, and if I know that's coming, then I'm automatically going to come to this bookcase to find out what my colleagues in the past, people in my profession, people who aren't Johnson scholars, but who've maybe been reading him lovingly their whole lives and have finally been given the exact same thing that I'm now given, which is a chance to write about him at 800 words. What did they have to say? That I more often come to those kinds of books than I do to Weeks's book, to things like that. Okay, all right. This is a hardcover of the snootiest of all of the literary, the lit chat people. This is collected essays by Lionel Trilling, who never said anything simply, and that this is true in this book as well. Even though this book covers This book covers a wide amount of Huckleberry Finn, the Kinsey Report, Rudyard Kipling, T.S. Eliot. I seem to remember there being something, William Dean Howells. But wasn't there something very, very modern? There's a whole essay on Mansfield Park. There's a wonderful, wonderful piece on the letters of John Keats. But I seem to remember there was something else as well. There was, well, I'll never find it now just by looking. But I seem to remember that there was a bit here on reading or reading mysteries or something like that. But I did change the book. I mean, I reinforced it because I do come back to it. But I changed it. Because the cover, in order to reinforce the fact that Lionel Trilling is not only cool but authentic, has him just smoking, and that killed him. And same thing with the back cover. I put an ichthyosaur there. It's why bother? If I'm going to pull it off the shelf, why bother to look at it when it's so gross? So, but I do come back to the volume all the time. Okay, all right. This next one is something for you to have. It really is, but it's not anything like any of these others. This is actually a work of history, and it's fantastic. Just fantastic. You should find a copy. It's an unlikely subject for a history. You would think that it wouldn't be this good, but it is. This is by Janice Radway, and it's called A Feeling for Books. And it's a history not only of the Book of the Month Club, the phenomenon of the Book of the Month Club, what it was in its heyday and all the people that worked for it, the initial readers, the final judgment editors and whatnot, but also how the Book of the Month Club reflected the reading of American society during all of its lifetime. Unbelievably fascinating. I expected that it would be sort of, when I first got it, I expected it would be sort of, a collection of interesting behind-the-scenes details that might be in the memos of the institution, but that we wouldn't know. And it ended up being so much more than that. No wonder it's in this room, because I love it so much. Okay, all right. This next one is an author that I love. He is now gone, except for one slim book. One slim little novella of his is remembered. All the rest is gone, including these nonfiction works. This is John Gardner. This is On Becoming a Novelist. And then we also have On Writers and Writing, although these are basically the same thing. I mean, On Becoming a Novelist has a nice portentous title, but really it's just him reflecting on what works and doesn't work in novels according to him. And I shouldn't say just, because he's fantastic when he writes about that sort of thing. Just fantastic. I come back to these things all the time. I wish that I could point to a uniform Penguin Classic shelf of trade paperbacks of his books, his novels. But unfortunately, he's known only for Grendel. He wrote a little novella called Grendel, retelling Beowulf from the monster's point of view, and that's it. Grendel is sometimes taught in schools, mainly because it's short. But all the rest of it, all of his big, ambitious novels, those are all gone, and that's unfortunate because I think he's great. Okay, all right. This is Occasional Prose by Wilfred Sheed. This is The Good Word and Other Words. That classic collection. Not so much explicitly grammatical. I mean, the Good Word was a column that he had, but a large chunk of this, probably 2/3 of it, is his deadline prose on whoever. American Heritage wants 600 words on F. Scott Fitzgerald, or the American Mercury would like you to reconsider Willa Cather. Is she any good or is she not, or that sort of thing. And you check, you get an invitation like that, you check to make sure you're going to get paid, and then you go. Time was 60 years ago, 70 years ago. You would then go to the library, the Rose Reading Room, the New York Public Library, and you would get a bunch of books and just sit there refreshing your memory, and reading and taking notes and extracting chunks that you thought you might need, and then you would bang out a piece. And that's what this is. But Sheed was a great wordsmith. So, okay, this is the Portable Malcolm Cowley. This is the Viking Portable Library, and this is one of, I've mentioned before, I love the Viking Portable Library. Absolutely love it. I wish that I had a uniform, dust-jacketed, hardcover entire set of them. I don't. But I love them mainly because their editorial integrity was really great. Their editorial integrity was much more than what you would expect from just a reprint line. Because that's all these things are. It's just a collection of reprints and excerpts. Ordinarily, editors in the Viking Portable line did more than that. So the volumes are all worth reading. They're all interesting for their discretion, for their choosiness. But every once in a while, one of these volumes would be truly great, would be just a fantastic collection, something that stood on its own rather than just being interesting. And the Viking Portable Lamb, for instance, is not such a thing. The Viking Portable Malcolm Cowley is. The Viking Portable Tolstoy is. The Viking Portable Faulkner is. Even though I don't particularly like Faulkner, even so, that book is, every once in a while, you'll get that with any series of any kind. Every once in a while, one of the volumes in the series will really jump out. It will really be better than the others. And this one's fantastic. I'm not all that big a fan of Malcolm Cowley, but this has all of his literary work. So, okay, this next one is old. The author is forgotten. This is Marvin Modric. This is Books Are Not Life, But Then What Is? And this is a collection of his extremely cranky book reviews and book essays. He was that rarest of things. They're almost gone now. An almost perpetually angry critic is a rare thing now. It's tough to maintain that kind of spleen, and in our ostentatiously point-scoringly demographic age where everybody gets participation trophies, it has less appeal. But his pieces are tremendously fun, like Prescott's. We saw way up there, oh my God, a million years ago, we saw Prescott's book that it's the same way. He was also an angry critic. Okay, all right. This is not either a collection of essays and book reviews, nor is it a publishing memoir. This is more along the lines of literary scholarship. This is the great Anthony Grafton. This is Worlds Made by Words, Scholarship and Community in the Modern West. I think Grafton is great. I don't quite know what he's doing with all of these books, but I guess where else would he go, right? Okay, all right. This is Edward Weeks again. This is another memoir of his. They go in order. The In Friendly Candor comes after this one in terms of chronological order. This is My Green Age, and there is our author as a very young man. And this is just his time before he came to the Atlantic Monthly. All of his literary adventures before then. Okay, all right, this is odd. This next one is just explicitly the kind of thing that we've been seeing on this tour, where an author collects old book reviews and just makes them into a book. This is Michael Durga, and this is his book Classics for Pleasure. I don't know if you can read the names on the side there, but better than 50% of them are not classics in any sense of the word, other than the booktube sense, which is older than 100 years. I guess the canon for pleasure might not have gone over well as a title. But that's all that this is just Durga writing about those authors. And he's a very thoughtful writer. So, he gets a brief or a bee in his bonnet to write about Jane Austen or Beowulf or whatever. He's going to go and sit on his couch and muse and ponder. And the piece that results will usually be very worth reading. So he has an enormous number of these things. I think he has 6 different collections like this, and I don't know how many of them I have. Have we seen any others? Any other Michael Durga? I don't think so. We saw Thomas Mallon. I don't think we've seen any other. Well, we probably will. There's plenty more books to go. Oh God, there are plenty more books to go. Okay. This is an author I have praised on this channel before, and this is his version of what I'm talking about. This is The Pleasures of the Past by David Carradine, and this is he was happy to do book reviews of the kind of stuff I write about: history, the House of Windsor, the House of Saxe-Coburg, that sort of thing. The individual people, the abdication crisis, the biographies of World War II leaders. If something like that trundled down the pike, he was happy to write about it, and he's so good. He is so good at it. And this is just a collection of his stuff. I'm very happy to have it. I was always curious to know I am always curious to know what he makes of when I go back, like for instance, if somebody does, like for instance, that book about Princess Margaret that came out last year in America. I, of course, wanted to know what some of the offhand comments that he makes about Princess Margaret. Same thing with that book, Searching for Queen Mary, Pope Hennessy book, Searching for Queen Mary, which still has not had an American publication, and I still have not got its UK edition. So this book is out there. This big book is out there on Queen Mary, and I've written a whole novel about Queen Mary, and I haven't read the book, but I'd love to read him on the subject. Okay, and then we do the last one here. This is also a collection of literary and political essays by Christopher Hitchens. This is Love, Poverty, and War, and it's this, as I've mentioned on this channel many times. I think this is the form that we get Hitchens at his best, because it could be banged out in the course of one meal, and it could be gone over. It was handleable at length. It did not require long-term discipline, and it yet could still sparkle with brilliance, and a lot of these things do. They should be together. I have a couple of other Hitchens books in this room. I would think they should all be together, but one way or another, that is this next shelf. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to do this tomorrow, whether or not we're just going to keep doing a library tour every single day. You don't seem to mind these library tours, and God knows we have a lot of bookshelves to go through. It is kind of melancholy, of course. This week is the week that I got Frida 2 years ago. This little hamster-sized thing with no whiskers, no tufts on her ears, no attitude, no voice, didn't make any noise. And I brought this little mouse home to Hyde Cottage, and I was assuming that I had an old, sick dog at the time, Malin Moore, my pointer, who hated all other dogs her whole life, and I just assumed I had no choice in the matter but to take the little puppy. But I just assumed that Malin would hate her too, and old and sick as she was 10 times Frida's size and would have been able to hurt her. So I was assuming that I was going to have to raise the dogs physically separated, and just take them out separately, feed them separately, raise and socialize them separately, until Malin got used to Frida, I guess, over many, many months. And that didn't happen. Malin's last gift to me, and in a lifetime of giving me gifts, was to ignore Frida, to just ignore her. She wasn't friendly with her, but it wasn't aggressive with her either, so that I could raise the two of them together. And it ended up not mattering that much, because Malin didn't live very long after Frida arrived here. She didn't have much longer in her life anyway. So this is Frida's adoption week, but when I'm down in puppy territory like this, I automatically remember Lucy, my fat little basset hound. When I would come down to, the last time I did this library tour, when I would come down to the bottom shelves to talk about books, she would sometimes waddle into the room and waddle right up to me and bounce her head off me to realize that I was there, and then just sort of stare at me with that bovine vacant expression on her face. And I think sometimes she was caught in video doing that, and it's hard. I'm here and I automatically remember that. But the cycle of dogs goes on. So anyway, we're finished with this shelf. And if I do another one tomorrow, we'll do that. Otherwise, I'll take the weekend off and we'll start again on Monday, wrapping up this shelf, or this whole bookcase. And then we'll just move on. There's plenty more books to go. So I will wrap this up for now, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.